Hello, good evening. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome to Inside Sports Talk with your host, Joanna Roselli. Alongside, I have Ed Cole, my amazing co host. How are you tonight?
Joanna Rosalie, good evening. You look lovely as always. Thank you for having me on the program as always.
Thank you, thank you. So I am ready to go ahead and jump in and talk some sports. A lot has happened over the last week. A lot is happening right now as we speak. We have the Western Conference Finals game two going on right now with the Phoenix Suns and the LA Clippers. So we will know who will be the winner of that possibly by the time the show wraps up. So we have that. We'll go ahead and bring that to you. And we will be covering, of course, the road to the NBA playoffs. I mean, the road to the finals. So we are talking NBA playoffs. Where is my head at, Ed? So much. The excitement is getting to me.
Oh my God, it's game two of the Western Conference Finals, Joanna. I mean, you have a reason to be excited.
It is, right? So obviously,
Yep.
I'm not going to be able to keep a lot of my words or my composure together as we go through the show.
As you can see, my view is off to the side because I'm watching the game on the TV right now. So you've got my complete attention, but at certain times, I've got to look this way.
Right. Well, my TV's out of my view, so I not
Oh,
probably it's for the best because if not, then I will not be able to do the show.
of
So,
course, I'll
um,
be a band doing it all by myself.
you and our guest will be go ahead and introducing him here shortly will be Ed Smith joining us, but we will be talking a little bit more also with sports on MLB, the Diamondbacks, and how their season is turning out to be and not as expected, unfortunately. Talking a little bit about the crackdown as well with the foreign substances that kicked off yesterday from the empires with the empires checking pictures for any substances or use of substances, I should say. Digging a little bit into the NCAA investigation with ASU and the Supreme Court ruling with the NCAA as well. And maybe dabble into a little bit of football, see where we have time towards the end of the show. We can dabble into that. But we're going to go ahead and kick it off. I'm going to introduce our wonderful friend and special guest tonight, Ed Smith, our former two-sport athlete. He's also an author and a radio personality here with Easy Sports Talk. So, how are you, Ed? Welcome. We've missed you.
Oh, it's great to see you guys. I'm slowly trying to make some progress, get these legs back underneath me after surgery. So I think tomorrow's 3 weeks, no, 4 weeks out, whatever it is. Like I said, it's a slow grind, but I'm getting there. But yeah, it's good to be back in rotation and see you guys.
My brother, God is good. It's great to see you, my brother. It's great to have you back on the program. So everything's going good.
Yeah, it's just, usually around this time of the day, I start to lose steam. It's just, it takes so much energy just to move around. And then my goal every day is I have to walk at least a little bit. So, like I said, by this time of the day, I'm usually worn out. But I say, like you said, God is good, man. It was just wasn't that long ago. I was praying for that surgery. Now that I've had it, now it's just praying for healing after it. So, like I said, but I'll get there.
Yes, sir.
Yes, little by little, baby steps. So
That's for
yeah,
sure. There's no
Mhm.
there's no big steps right now. Ain't gonna be no two stepping or anything like that anytime soon.
no. But once you're all healed and recovered from your surgery, we will then take you out and do some two stepping.
There you
Mhm.
go.
Yeah.
uh, so as we were kicking off the show, I did mention we do have the Western Conference finals with the Suns and the Clippers going on as we speak. My two Eds here I feel, honored to have two Eds on the show. Um, so we have Chris Paul he is still out for the Suns, and we still do not have a time frame of when he will be returning to the joining the team. Hopefully, it will be for game three. If not, at the latest game four, he will be able to be back on the roster. But Ed Smith, what are you seeing from these playoffs in general? I want to just go ahead and get a little recap from you before we fully dive in and what we've seen and where we see it going. Possibly a little preview of what's ahead. And what are you seeing out of the Phoenix Suns?
Well, I think it's been a great playoff to this point. Usually we just have chalk. Everybody, number with the top seeds just roll on. And we're watching the young Atlanta Hawks, so they got some fire in them. We're watching watching the Sixers crumble under the pressure. Some of their top guns never showed up. Showing some of the holes that they've kind of displayed. Then you get the big three over in Brooklyn. You turned into the big one because nobody else could stay healthy. Harden did give it a run, but he wasn't himself, obviously. And that Milwaukee series, I kept screaming at the television the whole time because my son, he was a Bucks fan, and I felt so bad for him because I was like, they're going to lose this series strictly because they don't know how to make adjustments or stop shooting threes. And somehow or another, they did just enough. And Kevin Durant's feet are just a quarter of an inch too big. Otherwise, they would have went home. But it's been a lot of fun throughout this whole playoffs. And obviously with the Suns, they've just showed how far they've grown in such a short amount of time. And, we give all the credit to Chris Paul. But, you see what they're doing even now without him in the lineup. And it's almost like, he's been grooming him all through the year. And, they're showing that they've been listening to him all the way through. And you got Devin Booker out there leading. You got Payne, stepping up in his absence. DeAndre Ayton has become, in a matter of just a few weeks, has become a beast. I rail on him a lot just because of his lack of aggression and stuff like that. And he was just, think he's just been saving it for the playoffs because this Ayton is not the Ayton we've seen all through the year and even through his first couple seasons, but he has just become dominant, down low, aggressive, cutting, dunking, you name it. And it's just been a lot of fun to watch. And then all the other pieces, Cam Johnson, Crowder, everybody's just playing their role right now. And that's the thing that's most impressive. And like I said, even in the absence of CP3, nobody's trying to do too much. They're just trying to do what their role and what they've been designed to do. And a lot of that is credit to Monty Williams and how he has had them prepared all the way through the season. And like I said, they're obviously everybody's staying within their game. We got a 1-point game, I think, here at the half of game 2. And, like I said, who would have thought all those months ago we'd be talking about the Phoenix Suns possibly, or even just, playing for a spot in the NBA Finals. Nobody would have ever thought it. And it's been a great season to watch so far.
It sure has. And I like what you said, Ed, that everyone's doing their part and doing what they have to do to be able to get and have gotten to where they are at now. And that not only has been with the players and how we've seen them develop through, on the road to the playoffs and then throughout the playoffs and where they are now, especially, in the Western Conference Finals, and hopefully that they're able to move forward to the finals. That's, crossing our fingers here for us huge Suns fans. But also, you mentioned it, Monty Williams, he actually did not get to have the honor of being named Coach of the Year, which I think, he was very well fit to have been named named with that award. But also we found out on game 1, James Jones being honored Executive of the Year as well. And I have to give a huge props to James Jones because he has done a phenomenal job. And one of the things is, as other teams, you would typically see them go after the big name, those huge names to bring them on and spending all this money. That's something that the Suns really didn't do too much of. Yes, it was with Chris Paul and getting that name here. But, they have Devin Booker, who he has been with the team from the start, and adding Crowder and having and putting those pieces together of what they need and not, really deviating from that. And that has been a great benefit for the Suns.
Yeah, and I think it's, you look at what the Suns have done, it's a homegrown product, in strict opposite approach of what the Brooklyn Nets did. They went out and they just tried to get those hired guns. You look at this roster and it's littered with draft picks that have been able to kind of mature and find their way. And then, like I said, you go out and you bring a Chris Paul in, who has been that orchestrator. I was talking on our show on Saturday about how Chris Paul is like the maestro of a fine symphony. He's the one who, when the tempo is going too fast, he slows it down. When somebody seems like they're out of tune, he gets them back. And this whole thing is like he's up there with the stick just going. And he's, is that whenever the team seemed like it was in trouble, he was at, like I said, that pace that just brought it back to zero. And like I said, the most impressive thing for me is what the team is doing in his absence. Because a lot of times what happens when you have a presence like Chris Paul, if nobody's listening, all of a sudden it's almost like kids when Ed, you teach your boys, you talk to them.
Yes.
When you leave the house, and you're fortunate. Now we're fortunate. We got boys that will listen, but some parents, you leave the house, you don't know what you're coming home to.
Right.
Whereas Chris, he's taught these young men, and they are doing exactly what he told them. Don't mess on the stove. Don't be eating all the food out the refrigerator. Leave the alcohol alone.
Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. And they're doing exactly what he taught them to do, and that's what's really impressive. Because we all know, even the best of kids sometimes can find their way along or the bad path, and it's real easy. All of a sudden, Chris isn't there. Now I'm going to play hero ball. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. They're all staying according to the plan, and I'm really impressed with what I'm seeing so far.
So at the half, the Suns are up 48-47, and you mentioned a guy stepping up. Ed Campaign, in Chris Paul's absence, is stepping up huge so far in the first half. He's got 16 on 6 of 12 shooting, so he's stepping up big on the night when Devin Booker's not shooting well at all. He's 3 of 9. He's got 9 points, but DeAndre 8 and 12 big points in the first half. Ed and Joanna, and Torrey Craig coming in with 6 minutes. Just contributions off the bench. Dario Saric has 7 points. Cam Johnson has 4 points off the bench. And another addition we didn't mention, Torrey Craig, he's a midseason addition. And another addition we did not mention, Jay Crowder, coming over from the Miami Heat. The impact that he has made from a defensive standpoint, and that enforcer at that point, at that power forward position, has paid huge dividends for the Phoenix Suns. They needed a guy like that for this moment in the playoffs, for the Western Conference Finals. And Joanna, as you mentioned, we hope is the NBA Finals.
Yes, definitely. And with one of the guys here, we haven't really mentioned too much of, and before we move on to our next, talking a little bit about the Clippers, I want to touch a little bit about Devin Booker, and something that I've noticed. I know something that we've pretty much, being in tune with, locally with the Phoenix Suns, and knowing Devin Booker and the ties that he had to the late Kobe Bryant. But it has been something, I'm sure you guys have seen it, that has been getting a lot of light, especially after Game 1, and calling him the next Kobe Bryant, or being a Kobe Bryant, prodigy. And now, being at the national stage, or the world's almost pretty much a world stage too, everyone's getting to now see Devin Booker for the player that he is. That, the Suns are getting the attention that they have not been getting for previous seasons. And Devin Booker, he's now the 4th player with a triple-double in the Western Conference Finals that now has been to join LeBron James, Larry Bird, and Bill Russell. And it's the second, or since Charles Barkley in 1983, to join him in doing so as well in the playoffs. So we have the first Suns player with the 40-point triple-double since Charles Barkley in 1993, to better phrase that. So that's another thing that we're seeing that as well. So see, my emotions are getting the best of me. I can't even talk. What are your thoughts on that, Ed Smith, and seeing this national talk about Devin Booker?
Well, it's proof that, stats don't mean a thing unless they're, put towards something. And, for the last few years, Devin Booker, he's been known to be, he's a scorer. He's very athletic. But to this point, he hasn't led the team anywhere. And I won't say they were empty stats, but, he's filling up the stat sheets and just kind of going about his business. And we all see what winning can do for anybody, being in a organization. It all started in the bubble last year. I think when they did it, even though it was only an 8-game sample, people were like, wow, the Suns went 8-0 in the bubble, and in my opinion, if they had done the scheduling right, the Suns would have actually got into the playoffs last year. The fact that they didn't play anybody that they had to leap over, they only played other teams, that is befuddling to me. But, so we had that small sample. Then we watched all through the season, all through the year, he's been putting up impressive stats, but because of the winning, it magnifies everything. And then because, like I said, with what Paul brought to the organization and Monty Williams, it's now like I said, people are just like, he's not just filling up seats now. He's actually doing it the right way, and these guys are winning, and they're doing it as a team. So now that's when the notoriety and everything comes, and it's it's just due too. He's put a lot of hard work in, but like I said, when you're doing it just filling up stats, a lot of times it goes unnoticed. This has been a breakout season for him, and I guarantee you, this season moving forward, there'll be no more wondering if he's an all-star. I think he's going to stamp his, name on that sheet for many, many, many more years to come. Because once you break out of that shell, it's hard to put him back in, and it's been really impressive what he's done to this point.
It's for me. It's so disappointing that Devin was not named as an NBA All-Star, nor was he named to the NBA All NBA team with what he's done this season. But the great thing is he will play for Team USA in the Tokyo Olympics. So there is what outside of what he's doing right now to lead his team to where they are, hopefully within going up on a 2-0 lead in the Western Conference Finals. The kid is magnificent. He is a special, spectacular talent. And as you mentioned, Ed, losing kind of overshadows that kind of stuff. And whatever people may have from a national media standpoint, whatever they may have against the Phoenix Suns, and Joe, you and I talked about this during the season, the lack of love nationally that the Phoenix Suns have gotten. Oh, now it's coming back. Now a guy like Stephen A. Smith is on the Phoenix Suns bandwagon because of what he saw, what they did against the Denver Nuggets, or what they did in Game 1 against the Los Angeles Clippers. So Ed, you're right. Winning cures everything, and those cameras and all that attention really starts coming once you start winning, and you're in the position that you are right now. When you win 51 games in a season, you're within 3 wins of the NBA Finals. You're within 7 victories of their first World Championship. If they do, I'm gonna have a heart attack and die. If they win this championship this year,
yes. Us.
I think all 3 of us were just going to be like, "Oh my gosh, did they really do this?" But it is so. How exciting is this, Joe and Ed, to see this team where they are right now at halftime? Right now, if they play a solid game of basketball in the second half, they could be up 2-0 in this Western Conference Finals, going to LA. And just years ago, they were the laughingstock of the National Basketball Association. And now look where Monty Williams and James Jones and everyone in this organization has them right now. A complete turnaround. It's incredible.
Yeah, I always warn against looking too far ahead because we all know how fast this can change, And,
I know.
For the fans, earlier in the year, Joanne and Ed, I was, you started talking about expectations as the season kind of continued. At one point they were in the 4 spot, and they got up to 2. But how long can that last? And then next thing you know, we got halfway through the season, past the All-Star break, and it's like, wait a minute, this might be for real. So expectations start to change. Now, my question is, all through the season was, okay, now what will be a disappointment? As we got ready to start the playoffs, I was like, well, you pull the Lakers in the first round, man, how bad would it be if they went out against those Lakers and after everything we've done? But they've continued to push and prove. And at this point, it's like you almost want to start expecting the victories and think, hey, now we got to raise our sights to championship. But I still say, let them walk, crawl, run. We'll get there, or crawl, walk, run. Yeah, crawl, walk, run. Yeah. So we just got to take it one game at a time and see where they land, and then we'll be we'll be ready to celebrate, or there'll be a lot of people crying in their beers.
Brother Ed, why can't we just run?
Because before you can run, you need to learn how to crawl, then walk, and then run.
I know that is a part of the growing up process, but we'll grow faster than that. I want to. And I want to run the entire time.
No, definitely. And that's exactly what the Phoenix Suns have been doing, it just taking and focusing on that one game at that one moment and that one play. And that's what has been getting them ahead. And as far as they have gotten to this point, and hopefully we get to see them go further. But with that, they are facing the Clippers. They do have Kyrie Irving that is out. He is injured with a strained knee, still has not been too.
Kawhi Leonard.
I'm sorry, Kawhi Leonard. Excuse me. My notes are here all jumbled up. With the strained knee. I'm sad. So we still do not have any news as far as how quickly, if anything, he will be returning to the series. So we know that has affected the Clippers to some extent. What do we see or an advantage the Suns have here as PLR from the Sportscape is joining us and right now as well, as they go ahead and move from game 2 and moving on to game 3 and going to LA.
What's up, bro?
What's good, brother Paul?
Hey, PLR.
I don't know. Can you hear us?
You can't hear us.
I can hear you now.
Okay.
There
I can hear you now.
Speak up. What are you holding back for?
What's going on?
What's happening?
Nada,
You actually look sober. I thought you'd be drunk on that narcotic right now.
Yeah, he's on that narcotic.
Whole different drug. No, I had practice tonight, so just got done.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Not much. Just
We
So
just
we
talking,
were talking-
brother.
Figured I want to give a couple minutes to you three superstars real quick.
Well, thank you. Appreciate you jumping on. So I know we have you for a little bit. We were talking the Suns with Kawhi Leonard being out, and what is the positivity of this for the Suns, or something that they can go ahead and take advantage of, and as well as going into LA and playing there for game 3 after game 2 wrapping up here soon.
I'm weird. I don't think it's a positive because their mind is Chris Paul. So is there really a positive? It's more like a 1-for-1. If Chris Paul was playing, I'd say it's positive. But the Clippers eliminated the Jazz minus Kawhi Leonard. So they're a team that's playing well together, and Ty Lue does an excellent job of making game-to-game adjustments and quarter-to-quarter adjustments and in-game adjustments. So I guarantee you everything the Suns did that worked the other night is going to be a lot more difficult tonight.
Yeah, and I'm right there with Paul. I think it is going to be a long series, especially because of the adjustments that Ty Lue has made. The minus, obviously, Kawhi Leonard, minus him, it's, you got to clap your hands, but at the same time, like Paul said, with Chris not being there, what I said earlier, I'm really impressed at how poised the team looks without Chris Paul, but it is still a negative not to have him there, especially later in the game, some of those situations where some of those booties get a little tight, he's not going to be there to soothe them, so we'll see how it all plays out. The key is, try to protect your home court and then see where everything goes from there. And it's a day-to-day, I guess, with Chris Paul. So we'll see where he is come game 3 and 4 out there in LA.
So what the Suns have to do is do what's gotten them to 7 straight playoff wins, is that playoff intensity, that belief in themselves, the fact that I love how they spread the ball and they fill up the assist sheet. That's really important to me, that the fact that every single one of these players on this roster believes in each other. They know exactly where to pass the ball and who's going to be open and who they trust is going to make this shot. Like Devin Booker, for instance, tonight he's got 4 assists so far. Campaign's got 3. They've got 12 assists as a team. So this is a team that has complete confidence and belief in themselves from the top to the bottom. And when you have that is a recipe for complete success. That is a recipe that is what makes a championship organization. And this Suns team, Edge, I know you said we got to crawl. We got to crawl and walk and then run. I still want to run, bro. I want them to run to the title. They got 7 more wins to a championship. I'm the guy that's glass completely full, not just half full.
It's hard to imagine that this team didn't make the playoffs for over a decade. This looks like a team has been doing this and an organization has been doing this for a long time. So that's really impressive.
Yes, sir.
Well, it matters because they have adults. They got an adult as a GM. They got an adult as a coach. They brought an adult as a point guard. It's amazing what happens when you stop drafting guys that were at prom 6 months ago, and then You actually get some adults to play
That's right.
basketball and play winning basketball. It makes a difference. But well, here's what's funny. I'm gonna make this game even simpler than that, even than trusting people. Make shots and defend every shot. And I know that sounds simple, but if you contest every shot, because the Clippers are the best 3-point shooting team in the league by average. So you got to contest every shot, run them off the line, and then you just got to make your own shots. I mean, I know it's a joke that this is a shot-making league, but it is really boils down to making and contesting. And I'll compare this to football. And in the playoffs, you run and you stop the run.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing. Hit shots, contest shots without fouling. That's a.
And with that, we're talking about with the Phoenix Suns and what they've been able to accomplish. I want to go ahead and go with a team that was not able to accomplish something that they should have accomplished. And pretty much the table was set for them, and they did not, come through. And that's with the 76ers and the Hawks, Atlanta Hawks. With Doc Rivers taking some of the heat. A lot of it's coming towards Ben Simmons in that game, and how there was no accomplishment there in that part. So PLR, you went on a rant yesterday, which I loved, on the sports cave, or the cave show, I should say. So for those that did not get to hear hear that beautiful rant, I want to go ahead and have you sum it up during like the next 30 seconds to 60 seconds, if possible, what your thought was on that game and just that overall.
If possible. Be alone for 90 seconds. That brother can go for 90 minutes.
First off, let me say this. I picked the Hawks to beat the Sixers. So I've got receipts on that. Because I actually picked them to win in 7, which means I had no faith in Philadelphia winning at home in game 7. I picked them to beat the Knicks in 6. So I've been on this Atlanta train for a while. So I don't want people to think I'm this Johnny come lately, and I have receipts. But to wrap it up real quick, and I compared Ben Simmons and Giannis. One man works on his craft. He takes shots. He misses them, whatever, but he takes them. He has fans yelling at him, counting to a minute, 30 seconds while he's shooting free throws, but he still takes them. That means he works on it. He just can't hit shots. Ben Simmons, it doesn't work on his game at all. And now it's in his head. And now you can't replicate what you do in the gym in the game, because the game is live bullets. In the gym, there's no one around you. You could do whatever. And he hasn't worked on his craft, and he doesn't trust his work. He puts in the work, and he doesn't trust it. And then the flip side, I said, I'm glad I came up here, that blame should be shared. Doc Rivers has lost 9 7-game series in game 7. Doc Rivers has 29 losses in clutching games. Doc Rivers has lost 11 playoff series when he's been up. So before we just keep slapping Ben Simmons, my man from the crib hasn't exactly done a great stand-up job himself, if we just want to be real.
Yeah, and just you're right, Paul. And just keep it into the modern times. We saw what happened last year when they had a 3-1 lead against Denver, and they blew that. They had an 18-point lead in game 4 in this series, and they blew that. They had a 26-point lead at home in game 5 against the Atlanta Hawks, and they blew that, and they barely squeaked by in game 6 in Atlanta. And for the fact that they lost 3 of 4 games in this series at home to the Atlanta Hawks, they cannot hold court at home. And you mentioned all the issues with Ben Simmons, with Ben, and it's just wow, that is a major disappointment. And Joe and I go back and forth on if that's a failure or not. That is an absolute failure. She and I went back and forth on the Brooklyn Nets. Was that a failure, or was that just what kind of season was that? That was an absolute failure. The Utah Jazz, an absolute failure. What they were able to do.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. I disagree with that. The Nets were not a failure. You have a guy that played 48 minutes, 53 minutes, and 40 minutes with his teammate, the second best player on the team, playing on a grade 2 hamstring pull. Most guys wouldn't even suit up with a grade 2 hamstring pull. So you're out there, and I look at it completely different. A healthy Kyrie and a healthy Kevin Durant beat Milwaukee's ass in 2 games. Every game, they waxed them. Now Kyrie comes down on Giannis's foot, and I know it was accidental, but Giannis shouldn't have been there anyway because you don't try to rebound a made shot. But that's a whole different story. So now he's out, and a man is playing on a grade 2 hamstring. I don't care how average sometimes we get on Middleton and Drew Holiday for not being every perennial all-star. They're still very good NBA players. One dude isn't going to beat 3 dudes that are all-stars. I don't consider that a fail. And then if we look at all the quote-unquote big threes, none of them won the first year. So I don't consider that a failure due to injury. Plus, I think if we're down, we got to be fair to Milwaukee. Giannis takes all that abuse for what he can't do, but in a closeout game on the road, he put up 40 points and 13 rebounds. So I don't think that's an epic fail on one side. I think one team just was really injured, and another team that's a good team took advantage of that. As far as the Hawks, I think we're selling the Hawks short. And by doing that, we're now selling Nate McMillan short. Look at what Indiana did when they said Nate McMillan was the problem. They can't even make the playoffs, fire a coach after 1 year when the owner and the GM are the ones to blame for Nate leaving. Nate takes over for Lloyd Pierce, takes an Atlanta Hawks team that was sub 500, and now they're playing defense, have defined roles, know who's coming off the bench, knows what's going on, using Capella as a rim runner, got Collins playing all over the place, and got those snipers out there that aren't missing. So as much as we could say Philadelphia failed, we got to give credit to Nate McMillan, what he's turned this Atlanta Hawks to. So I think there are certain times, and I'm not a Utah fan, but let's be fair there too. Donovan Mitchell's ankle is still messed up. And he's not, if you watched him in that first game versus the last game, he had no lift. Donovan Mitchell is a really good basketball player that should have been on an all-NBA team, just like Devin Booker and Jason Tatum. So when he's not right, and you're missing Connolly all but the last game with the hamstring, see, I don't consider those fails. I consider Portland a fail because you had a healthy team and your backcourt was better than Denver's backcourt, and there's no way that you should have let Campazzo Fazio outplay you, whatever his name is. He should have played Dame Lillard and CJ. That shouldn't happen. So I think there's a difference between epic fails and teams coming up and teams having situations. See, a coach is not going to get fired in Brooklyn or in Philadelphia because of what happened. Coach got fired in Portland because they couldn't get past a Denver team with no backcourt. That's a problem. I think that's the difference when I'll throw out the word epic and fail.
And with that, I want to go ahead and go into the Nets. No, not the Nets. Excuse me. The Bucks and the Hawks. Looking ahead to that. Ed Smith, I know we have you for just a little bit. You mind if we keep you for like 2 more minutes before we let you go? I want to get your thoughts on this as we look ahead into the Bucks and the Hawks. That kicks off tomorrow. If I remember the schedule correctly, I don't have it in front of me.
Yes, yes, tomorrow night. Yep.
Tomorrow night. So with what we've seen from these two teams, what is your thoughts of how this is going to play out? How many games, do you believe that this will go ahead and play out?
I think it's going to be a 6-game series. I think with the Hawks, I think they're a little ahead of schedule, but the thing is they don't know what they don't know. And I mean, they're just playing just great ball right now. And all props to Nate, what he's done with that young squad, especially I think they had a losing record at the All-Star, whatever it was, and to turn around and change not just the play on the court, but the entire culture to the point where they're not going out there just hoping they win. They're going out there expecting to win. And that was kind of, you could see the change even in that Sixers series. They were more confident than the Sixers. And a lot of that goes down to Ben and his shortcomings and, everybody doubting what he could do. And you were always holding your breath to every time Embiid went down, you're just like, oh God, is he getting up? That type of thing. So this series is going to be a series of who makes the right adjustments and also do the Bucks make any adjustments at all. In my opinion, this game should be down in the paint for the Bucks. They should put. I hate when I see Lopez running. All he does is run around the 3-point line, and then Giannis. I mean, I was joking the other day, Paul. Have you ever seen him literally like just post anybody up? Even when he gets the ball in the post, he starts out by getting it on the wing and then backing down. Put that man down there on the blocks. Let him abuse people down there. So this gonna. They don't know how to do it, and it's just crazy. Yeah,
he doesn't know how. You're right.
Yeah, so for me, this is going to come down to, I guess, will of game plans. Who because we all know Atlanta, they can put it up from outside. It's the pace of the game for them. If they get Bucks wanting to do shootout style, we could have an upset there. But in my opinion, this is 6 games, 6-game series. Bucks should pound the ball down low. Get Giannis as close to the paint as you can, even if you start him out on the wing and go from there. But like I said, this is the young Hawks are ahead of schedule, and I won't say it's already this season is a victory for them, but let's be honest, this season is already a victory for them.
Can I say something real quick? Because I'm going to have to jump when Ed jumps. I agree with you on the Bucks, and here's why: we always focus on what Giannis can't do. What he can do, the Hawks don't have anyone that can guard that. So there's no one that's going to get in front of that freight train coming downhill over and over. So, yeah, he doesn't need – in this series, he's not going to need a post-up move. In this series, he's not going to need to worry about shooting threes. He's going to get downhill early and often, and Milwaukee should have enough because between – the one thing Atlanta doesn't have, they've got shooters, but they don't have good wing defenders. And Giannis on one wing – Middleton filling it up, Drew getting in there, and Drew has size. That size isn't going to stop Trey DeBarge, but it's going to give him a little bit of angst. So that's
y'all like Ben did in the Sixers series.
Don't play. Y'all know who Trey DeBarge is. So, but the difference is he's got to play defense on a score. He could rest on defense because Ben won't shoot. So now he's actually got to play defense against Drew Holiday. That's going to be the difference, and they don't have a wing defender. So I'm with you on that. And just so you know, too, I picked the Suns in 6.
Okay.
I did like playing spades. I called I 5, maybe 6. I see 5 books, but maybe I get 6.
The thing is, the PLR has now called it, and the thing about PLR is that he's not wrong. I do not remember him being wrong like ever.
Hardly ever. Yes.
So, and I have receipts now. I have the receipt, so we will have to come and visit that if we have to. But we have. You're not hacking into my stuff, PLR. But we have your prediction about the Suns. But Ed, I want to get your prediction before you go, and we have you guys sign off of where our audience can go ahead and find you. What is your prediction for the finals? Who do you see going there?
Oh, I got Suns and I got Bucks. I think this will be a 7-game series here with the Clippers. We'll see who comes back from protocols and knees and stuff like that. But I think it's going to be a long series. And like I said, I got the Hawks in 6 over there. Bucks in 6 on the other side. And then I'll come back and visit you guys when we get to the finals so we can make our predictions for that.
Yes, definitely. We'll definitely make a special show out of that. It'll be very fun. And then we'll have to play some type of bet too.
There you go.
I'm not against
a friendly bet.
I'm out of that.
Well, PLR, where can our awesome people find you, locate you, listen to your stuff?
Every day on the Cave Show at PLR, 1:00. Just go to sportscave.com. Cave is with the K. Hit that listen live button. There we are. We're on the Twitter, the Instagram, and the Facebook at the Sports Cave. Cave again with the K. PLR on sports on the Twitter, and you can get me on Spotify and iHeartRadio. Thanks to Hefa.
Thank you for that. Ed Smith, our wonderful friend. how can our awesome people listen in on your stuff? And
Every Saturday on KDUS 1060 AM. Uh, was it 1060 AM? Yeah, 10 AM to 12 out here in Phoenix. And as far as the Twitter, you guys know me. Ed Smith Speaks. I use it all the time. I'm on Twitter 24 hours. And Instagram, everything. Now you can follow me. Eventually I'll put something out there.
well, thank you both. You guys are awesome as always, and for joining us. And we'll definitely have you, Ed, back on for our finals. And
Great.
TLR Bears.
Bears.
Hey, I didn't screw it up this time because I always screw that up.
Yeah.
Great to see you guys. Enjoy talking about the Diamondbacks. That should be fun.
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Good night. Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Awesome to have them both on at the same time.
Yes.
Great stuff. Awesome guys with some amazing stuff here.
Joe, I've got some breaking news for who's not watching the Suns game. So Pat Bev and Devin Booker collided heads, and Devin Booker's heading back to the locker room. He got a really bad gash on his nose, so he's heading back to the locker room right now. So that's unfortunate for the Suns. And so Pat Bev's got blood all over his jersey, so they've got him on the 4-letter right now, and Booker's headed back to the locker room. That's not good.
What you're just saying that you just took me back to Steve Nash and the Suns back then when the playoffs. Remember when Steve Nash and his nose broken, bleeding, and I think he also had a gash pop. I think if I remember correctly too. Flashbacks. You gave me flashbacks, Ed.
Let's just pray D-Book comes back. I'm sure they'll do whatever. I don't know if he needs to have stitches or whatever they do to get him back out there. So and Pat Bev's headed back to the locker room too. So Pat Beverly and Devin Booker are both headed to the locker room. Let's hope
that he's okay and that he will be hopefully that he will be able to come back. With what you said, I do not think that would be too possible for Book to rejoin his teammates in the court, but let's pray that all is best as can be. Yes.
Tight game so far, Joanna, as we thought it would be. 71-67, third quarter. About coming close to the fourth quarter, so this is going to come down to a fourth quarter battle, and the Clippers are not going to go away easily.
No, of course not, and did not expect for them to do so at all either. But we're here in our second half of the show. We have still quite a bit to talk about, and we talked quite a bit of playoffs. I know we can keep on talking playoffs and road to the finals, but we will go ahead and continue that onto our next show. But I want to go ahead and move on to the NFL and talk a little bit about the Arizona Cardinals, or dear Arizona Cardinals here in the Valley, with rookie Zaven Collins arrested over the weekend for speeding and reckless driving. So unfortunately, we ran out of time, and I was not able to ask Ed Smith about him being a football player, that he played the game, and how this could all play out for Zaven Collins. He's new to the team. We know with the NFL and we know with the Cardinals, they take this very seriously. So they have pretty much zero tolerance on this with any type of legal situations that players get into. Mm-hmm. How can this? I don't know how this is going to play out for Zaven Collins, being as new as he is. I don't know. Like, it just sucks to see him be a part of something like this and going through this. He has his whole entire career ahead. He hasn't even started, really his career in the NFL. He's just getting to know the team and getting to those practices, and then this happens. How? I don't know. I'm at a loss, and I'm really honest. I was very surprised to see the news, hear the news, because he just seems like a great guy and someone who you would least expect to get in any type of situation as he has over the weekend.
Yeah, he seems like a really great kid, as you mentioned. But according to our reports, going 76 miles an hour in a 35-mile-an-hour zone, Joanna. That's clearly a no-no. That was not smart on Zaven or on Collins' part to do that. And I'm sure that the Cardinals, as you mentioned, they're going to come down hard on him for that. And I'm sure he'll be subject to the NFL's personal conduct policy for that situation. That's not good. I mean, he could have endangered his life and someone else's life. And if heaven forbid something, if there was an accident, we're glad that did not happen. But say that did happen, things would have been a whole lot different. This would have been a completely different story, Joanna, if something like that would have happened. If it would have went to the extreme and an accident would have occurred, my goodness, we're praying. We're glad that did not happen. But that was just not a smart move on Collins' part to do that, to drive recklessly like that.
Right. Yes, unfortunately, good thing he is okay. He did not bring anyone into that situation and have it be worse, as you mentioned, Ed. Right now is just more waiting out of a statement, because I don't know if they have released a statement, the Arizona Cardinals, or not. Seeing what statement, if they put out there. We were still waiting for them to release something, and what the outcome is going to be out of Zaven Collins' actions.
I'm sure the Cardinals are doing their due diligence, Joanna. They're getting their information from the Scottsdale PD and whatever other sources, whatever other information they need to gather before they come out with a statement or whatever the discipline is for Collins. But I'm sure it's going to be, whenever they get that information, it'll be swift and they'll let everybody know. And whatever the punishment is for Collins, I guess it'll fit what he did and the infraction that he did. And I'm sure he has to feel bad about what happened, because again, that's something you cannot do as a 22-year-old. You're a multimillionaire right now. It's crazy, Joanna. When you get drafted, you come out of Tulsa, you get drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. You're suddenly in the NFL. Now you sign this $14 million contract. All these great things are thrust upon you, and that's a lot for a 22-year-old to take in process, right?
Definitely is. Yes. And those who are also taking it all in and just being thrown at in the middle of a season are MLB pitchers. So on Monday, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, the crackdown has really begun for them. Umpires are checking pitchers for substances. We have pitchers speaking out how it's affecting them. And it seems like they may be able to reach some type of middle ground. It seems like there's at least some talks that may have begun or will be in the process of pitchers being able to use some type of substance, hopefully in the future, to help for when that is needed. Obviously, we did see, it was no secret substance being used by pitchers. And also that MLB wasn't cracking down. So what happened? It was just taken advantage of, went a little bit too far, and now we're seeing this major crackdown in the middle of a season, which is another thing why pitchers are being outspoken about it. Because how do you're just pretty much throwing them a curveball, and now you have to adapt yourself, especially if you are someone who relies or using this on a day-by-day basis, and now you have to adapt yourself. You have to adapt your body, your pitching, to no substance, to not using a substance when you pitch. So we saw that on Monday. We saw that yesterday at the games. Throughout the games, umpires doing checks on each of these pitchers. Jacob deGrom, I don't know if you saw this or heard of this, Ed, but he was one that was checked up quite a bit in his game. He started the game phenomenally, throwing just pitch after pitch and throwing at a speed you really are not used to seeing anymore, at least by very few pitchers. Mm-hmm. So in his last 12 starts, he has a 0.50 ERA. So he has the best ERA out there right now. So he's had some injuries, and he's kind of been fighting with that a little bit. He was out for a little bit. Due to that, he's back. It seems like he was battling something, again, somewhere along the same injury that he previously had. Now he's back out. It was a question of, is he, continues to play like this? Is he risking his career? Is there maybe a larger issue that's, causing these injuries? But he then goes out there and just throws the baseball and has this amazing outing, and is like, they can't believe, because he's not using anything and he's just striking out, and is just, you cannot believe your eyes. So is he maybe up? I'm just gonna throw this out there. Maybe could be up for the Cy Young.
Yes.
Throwing like this, and just having these type of outings. Come on, like, who
Joe,
does that?
Yeah, you're not revealing a secret saying that Jacob deGrom would be eligible for the Cy Young, but the way he's pitching, absolutely, he's a Cy Young Award candidate if he can stay healthy and pitch like this and lead the New York Mets. He's having a phenomenal year, and by all accounts, I'm reading this SI story. So Jacob deGrom just happens to be the first pitcher that was checked for these illegal substances this year, Joanna. And so he says in this article, so he asked the umps, he said, quote unquote, what all do you guys need? And they said they needed his glove, his hat, and his belt. And he just gave them all that stuff and just walked into the dugout. It's going to be a feel out process for these pitchers. And as we mentioned last week on the show, Joanna, these pitchers are going to have to start taking more bullpen work outside of, when they come up every fifth day, because they're going to have to get used to not being able to use these substances for pitchers that were actually using it. So evidently deGrom doesn't use it. Is that what you're saying? He doesn't use any substances? Well,
I'm not saying that he does or doesn't. I'm just, mentioning the fact that how that played out, where, he was having this amazing outing. He's like, gets checked on and like, hey, let me see your stuff, because you can't not be pitching like this
if you're not using the substance.
Exactly.
Yes. Yeah. So how could Jacob deGrom? I mean, you would say, okay, Jacob, you've got to be using a substance. Well, let's err on the other side. Maybe he is not using a substance, and he really is that good that he does not need a substance to pitch as well as he's pitching this year.
Yeah, because we know, and it's not a secret, that he's a freaking good pitcher.
Oh my gosh, yes.
So. And another thing we have to look at, the Mets have been really good. It's not a lie, they haven't been. But it's like, are they like, maybe for some, maybe they've been a little bit of a sleeping dog, and now it's like, oh, they're doing this and this is happening, and it's like, waking it up.
Yes.
So it's a team I know we said it, but it's a team to look out for this season. If you haven't already been paying much attention to the Mets.
Yeah, Joe. Yeah, they're 4 games ahead of Atlanta right now. They're 37-31, leading the National League East. This is a good baseball team, and they're really good primarily because of that pitching, because of deGrom and others. That's why they are where they are, because of outstanding pitching.
Definitely. But someone who has not been having too much of a outstanding role had been the Arizona Diamondbacks, and I'm just going to touch on this for a minute before we move on and wrap up the show. We just have a few minutes left. But Arizona Diamondbacks, they have finally secured a win. And that feels good to say, because they've had the worst losing record, and they made history with that record, I should say. But maybe they may be turning over a new leaf or turning the corner, Ed. But I just, I know, and sadly to say with that, just a couple of games before that, over the weekend, Carson Kelly, their pitcher, actually was injured and had fractured his wrist by a hit by pitch. So, Ed, you said it. What could get worse?
Yeah. So Joe, you were on the Zoom call over the weekend. What were you on the call with Carson himself, or were you on with Tori?
I was on both when it initially happened. They were just kind of waiting to see, getting some additional tests done, and just more of a result. They just know that it was a fracture, and still didn't have a set time frame of how long that Carson Kelly would be out. So I have been out a little bit out of my baseball news for the last day and a half or so, due to The NBA playoffs, of course, it's a lot to keep up with at once, Ed. But
Oh, and an update, Joanna. So Devin Booker is back out. So they did whatever they needed to do to tape up his nose, and they kind of stuffed his nose with whatever they needed to stuff his nose with. So I'm sure that's not going to make it real easy for Book to run up and down the court. But the good news is Book is out there, so that's great.
that is awesome news. Good to hear. But we'll see. With that, I know they were going to be bringing up a catcher, and they were evaluating that. I know they did have someone selected and bring them up. I just do not have that name available to me at the moment, unfortunately. But
I believe one of the names was Dalton Varsho. I know his name was in there as well as far as one of the catchers to bring up. It was him and another young man's name. But let's dwell on the positive. They won one game in a row after losing 17 straight games, Joanna, and 23 straight road games. Anything in a positive light, one victory will shine light and make things better for the Arizona Diamondbacks. They just have to continue to build upon that one victory. One victory at a time.
They just need to take it a game at a time.
Yes.
Is what I would have to say. Don't have it, affect them in the long run. And a win is a win. I will take it, Ed. We don't know what, the next outcome will be. I mean, the outcome will be of their next game. But at least they have a win and they're not continuing that losing streak. So, but with that, I want to go ahead and we have a couple of minutes left here in the show with the NCAA. The Supreme Court has sided with the athletes in that ruling and against the NCAA that the NCAA should not bar any payments to student athletes and to include other benefits for education for their education. So I just want to keep this a little bit short. We can go ahead and get into it as it is a developing story. And our next show, we'll touch more on this. But it's about time that the athletes were, they pay their dues. They travel. They pretty much are playing as a professional, except, yes, you are in college. They're being, in a way I see it, that they're kind of being taken advantage of in a way, and the NCAA or the organizations, just how much it has grown and pocketing that money for themselves. And we already know of course, NCAA is investigating ASU for possible recruiting violations. So, and ASU is not the only school, at least right now, they're facing an investigation. But, if they did or didn't, we still, it's to be known as the investigation continues. And once we know the outcome of that, but, it's happened, Ed, and it happens where the schools will go ahead and or the programs or whatnot will entice athletes and give them some type of something to promote, to go ahead and bring them on. So yeah, it's something, that's now changing. I think within the next year or 2 years, something will come into full effect that the NCAA athletes will go ahead and reap the benefits of this and having some type of payment in addition to what scholarships and other benefits that they get towards their education.
Right, because they deserve it. They are the main draw, these athletes. That's the reason why that's the reason why March Madness and the Final Four and the playoff system in NCAA football is as great as it is in every other sport, because it's because of the student athletes. It's not because of the chancellors or the presidents of these schools. It's the players themselves. That's why we tune in, because we want to see these amazing athletes do what they do on a game by game basis. They do things that most humans cannot do. They do superhuman things, these young kids do, and they should be rewarded for that. Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. And from that, they also go, they go on to drafts. They go ahead and they're building their professional career. So why not? And I'm finally happy to see something is being done about it and will be done about it in the near future. But with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up our show, Ed. We will go ahead and continue this on Saturday's show, continue this conversation, and talk a little bit more NBA playoffs, road to the finals, and a little, throw a little potpourri of sports in there as well.
Oh, of course, whatever else pops up throughout the course of the week.
Yes, indeed. So As soon as we jump off this, I will be jumping on my couch and watching the remaining of this Suns and Clippers game. They're at fourth quarter, 77-81. The Suns leading, very, very close game as we expected it to be. But before we can go ahead and enjoy the rest of this game, Ed, let our awesome people know where they can go ahead and listen in to you and find you.
Yes, ma'am. Right here, of course, on Inside Sports Talk on Brother PLR's show, The Sports Cave, on Twitter at EdCole43 as I watch the Suns and the Clippers. I can multitask at EdCole43, Instagram at EdwardCole301, and Facebook at Edward Cole.
All right. You got them all? Yeah?
Yep, that's all of them.
You can find me, Joanna Roselli, on both Instagram and Twitter at JRoselli, at JROSALYE. And you can find Inside Sports Network on Instagram at Inside Sports Net and on Twitter at Inside Sports with an extra S at the end. And make sure you download and listen to us if you do miss us here on wherever it is that you listen to podcasts, bringing you 2 shows a week. And visit our website, insidesports.net. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night. Have an awesome rest of your week. This was Inside Sports Talk.